Hey guys, Brandon here. We got a really exciting interview for you today. We interviewed Emilio Crespo from the band Sojourner. These guys are international and they kind of blew up on the internet with their third release of the album Premonitions. This is fantastic atmospheric folk metal. It's got elements of everything that you would want to hear in a adventurous record. They've got a couple of singles up on YouTube, an amazing video called The Deluge. So if you like your metal melodic as hell and dark as hell and beautiful as hell, superbly crafted and adventurous and rich storytelling elements and some wonder as well, I think you guys are going to really like Sojourner's Premonitions. Emilio is a really cool guy. We talked about video games. We talked about the making of the album. We talked about everything with their relationships inside the band and being located all around the world, and how they make that work with writing records. Stay tuned. Emilio's a really cool guy, and let us know what you think. Today's guest is Emilio Crespo. How you doing, Emilio?
All good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for being on the show. This is the lead vocalist of atmospheric folk metal band Sojourner. The band's third album, Premonitions, is out now on Napalm Records. The album showcases a darker side of the adventurous and epic tales told by the band. Thanks for being with us today, Emilio. We appreciate your time. Tell us how things are going with you and how you got started with the band.
Yeah, so all is good, self-isolation, I guess, same as everybody.
Yeah.
The band started basically when I got a message from a mutual friend of mine and Mike, and he just showed me his other band, Lysithia, and I really dug it because I'm a big Doom guy, and I had a Doom band at the time, and then Mike, of course, with his. And decided to message him just to, see what's up and just tell him I liked it and stuff. And we started chatting. And over the months, we just decided to start something of our own. So actually at first Sojourner it was like a melodic doom band. Those demos don't exist anymore, so nobody will hear that. But yeah, after a while we were just like, this isn't quite clicking. Let's do something else. So we just scrapped all that, and then it's the atmospheric metal that you hear nowadays. And then, of course, shortly after that, after we founded the band and stuff, like Chloe joined, then Wilson, then Ricardo and Scotty and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's kind of cool. I feel like you guys, I don't want to say maybe unfairly is not the right word, but I feel like you get lumped in with a lot of atmospheric black metal, but I kind of hear more of the Insomnium, Draconian, doom roots of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's attributed mainly to the first album, Empires of Ash, which did have those elements of some Caladan Brood-esque vibes, maybe a tiny little bit of summoning, but we've never been strictly an atmospheric black metal band. That's why we've never actually called ourselves a black metal band or anything like that. We just call it atmospheric metal because there's everything in there. There's melodic death. There's even hints of power sometimes in the riff. Yeah. There's folk. There's black. There's everything. So we don't want to trap ourselves into one small thing. So it's just atmospheric metal.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into the next question. Ben and I actually just sort of discovered you guys, and it's been a lot of fun. This album is phenomenal. And with the release of Premonitions, we were absolutely floored by the honesty, the melody, the darkness throughout the adventurous record. Can you share a little bit about the concept behind the album and some of the inspirations throughout?
Yeah, so basically, before we always write an album, there's kind of a conversation going of kind of like a color palette, but also the general vibe and the feeling that it'll give off. So this time we knew we wanted a darker album. We kind of had these color hues of it kind of needs to be bluish or purplish. It's a weird way of speaking, but it's kind of we knew what direction it was going. And then I guess happy coincidence because it wasn't such a happy time, but pretty much all members were going through a really difficult time in our lives at the time of the recording and writing of the album and everything. So it really naturally took a darker path. And the lyrics as well, while there's not a concept, there is like a theme running throughout the whole album, which is like uh, desolation and like fear and sadness and melancholy and all this kind of stuff. Just a bit darker vibes, maybe even hints of nihilism in there. So yeah, it just progressed into this really dark album, but still maintaining the core identity of the band.
That's awesome. I mean, that's one of my favorite things that bands do is they're not afraid to explore the more abstract kind of thoughts of, color and visual stuff in music. Like I feel like that's so huge, and it really is throughout. Like I look at that album cover and I feel like I hear the blues and the yellows that are on that album cover, and you guys nailed it, really.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, and I love that you have that sort of mindset to go into it, and the band really seems to have a very strong connection to the artwork, as you obviously just said. And the first two albums feature epic landscapes that feature ruins and mountains, but your most recent album takes kind of a sidestep. There's still like a monolithic kind of a figure, but it's instead of like a ruin or a mountain, it's a man and a lady approaching like this huge owl. This really eye-catching piece kind of symbolizes the journey that the listener is about to embark on. So can you kind of talk about the artwork of Premonitions in particular and how it kind of relates to the themes that you just talked about?
Well, I mean, sorry to disappoint you, but the actual artwork, I mean, of course, it all ties in with mainly with the vibe of the music and like the whole general atmosphere. But the cover actually doesn't really go with, not that it doesn't go with, it's just it wasn't really based on the lyrics. It was just kind of like this image that came to Mike in a dream, like with the owl and stuff like that, which he thought was just really awesome. And we also liked the idea, so we gave it to the artist, and he came back with the whole like the owl with the constellations and stuff. And of course, through the album, I do have kind of, let's say, depressive themes and stuff like that. So the two people going up to the owl is kind of like just stumbling upon this huge statue, because actually it wasn't supposed to be a live owl, it was supposed to be a statue, but the live owl just seemed cooler. And they just kind of stumble upon this big statue. It's kind of as a symbol for like seeking guidance, I guess, like how do I get out of this trench that I'm in. So I mean, the cover can be interpreted in many ways. There's no one definition for it. It's just it suited the music, the vibe, the color, everything, and it's just fucking awesome. It's a big owl. What else do you want?
Yeah, it is awesome. And so, who was the artist that did that?
Sebastian Luca Bast, which is actually the guy that did our second album too. So he did both, which was really cool, and to be able to do those two different styles.
That's fantastic. Shout outs to Sebastian for sure. And so, how do you all write such amazingly personal and emotional music, as you were just kind of talking about, while being so far apart from one another? It feels like the distance kind of helps bring in the different backgrounds. It even fits the band's name, Sojourner, meaning loosely meaning pilgrim. Is this intentional?
I mean, I think it just comes natural to us. The whole like, I don't want to say like we're antisocial writers or anything like that, but I think we all really prefer to just be kind of in our own headspace at that time. I don't think, even if we could be that kind of band, I don't think we'd ever be a band that's like in a rehearsal space jamming for 5 hours, like, oh, check out this riff and that riff. No, it's not really the way we work. Not to mention Mike and Chloe write all the music. They've been playing in bands together for so many years and stuff like that. So it's very natural for them, the way they write and all that. And then it comes to me for vocals and lyrics, and goes off to the drummer for drums and all that stuff. So I think it's just, it just comes natural to us. Basically, we've been in a band in quarantine since before quarantine was a thing. Put it that way.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Could you talk a little bit about the recording process of Premonitions? It was mixed and mastered by Oystein Brun of Borknagar, huge fan of Borknagar, from Crowstown Studios. Did you personally choose them for the engineering work? It's a perfect fit.
So pretty much, the recording, everything's done by Mike. Mike's studio is basically the HQ for Sojourner. So once like all the ideas are done and like the let's say the skeleton of the song is ready to go, he'll basically record everything and just have it, nice and tidy and stuff. And then, yeah, we actually worked with Oystein last time as well for the Shadowed Road. We also had Dan Svana for mastering, but this time we just decided to go with him completely, just because he really understands like our sound and what we want to bring forth. And Bortnagar as well, like their type of production is something like we look up to. It's like, it's just very crisp and clear. You can hear everything, nothing's muddy and all that stuff, and just feels, really, really good. Now, obviously they outsource for mix and mastering, but like still being his band, he really knows what to do. And so yeah, it was a really good, it was a pleasure working with him. It was an awesome experience. And not just once, but twice. And he's a really cool dude. Like he'll send us a mix. We'll check it out. We'll have some notes. We'll send it back to him, and he'll just like, go back to the drawing board. And it's a really nice experience to work with him. Very smooth.
That's awesome. Actually, a couple of friends of ours in the band Zonga. Are you familiar with them? They just put out a record back in February.
Alex.
Yeah. Those guys.
I know.
Yeah. They're good dudes. They had a similar experience, and yeah, I just wanted to ask you about it because it's funny, small world. We just started doing these interviews, and it's like, you kind of start to see the little circles of where people are intertwined,
Yeah, we actually used to be label mates with Zona.
Okay. On Avant-Garde, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. And what were your thoughts when you got the final master back? Did you flip out? Was it like perfect?
I was definitely blown away, but at the same time, I was relieved as well, because obviously when you're in a band and you hear these songs 3,000 fucking times before they finally get to, the final product. It's kind of like, there was a part of me that was like, oh, okay, we're done. Just send it off. But another part of me that was like sitting down, I was like, wow, like we're finally hearing stuff, and I'm blown away by how this sounds, and it's what we wanted pretty much,
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely it was a really good, it was just a really good feeling.
Yeah, I imagine it was. I mean, especially after finishing this monster of a record, like once it's done, it's like, oh my God, give me all the beers in the universe now,
Yeah.
Kind of related to this, but the music video that you guys put out, the Deluge, it's beautifully shot. It features massive landscapes and seemingly infinite mountain ranges, and really gives that adventurous vibe that you guys sort of portray and that you express in your music. What inspired the imagery for the music video, and can you share where this was shot and some stories from the production?
So pretty much the Deluge is actually a song, basically the lyrics of that song, it was written in one of my worst periods and all that stuff. So we definitely knew that we didn't want the actual music video to go being based off the lyrics, because there would only be me in it, and that would suck. Especially being an international band, we really wanted it to be a band effort through and through. So we just came off the heels of our UK tour with Haber Krunu, and we had our director flying in, Oliver Koenig, which is actually from Firtan, really cool melodic black metal band, and yeah, so he came over with his girlfriend, and we were just kind of actually discussing ideas of what could be the overall idea. Mm-hmm. And we knew that we wanted to shoot some in the Highlands. Of course, there was this one really cool forest close to where some of the members lived at that point, Dundee in Scotland. And we just kind of winged it, actually. It wasn't like this big, huge plan and slates of this scene and that scene. It was just kind of this part's cool. Let's just fucking film something here, So it was really cool, and definitely an experience. Aside from Ricardo, none of us had actually shot a music video before. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely something that was really cool to experience. Yeah, for sure.
Nice. And what was do you have any funny stories from the production at all? Was it super annoying, or was it totally what you expected?
Well, no, it was actually pretty smooth. There was no weird things or accidents or somebody falling down a hill or something like that. Nothing like that. I mean, of course, when we were going to shoot Chloe's waterfall scene, we did have to hike up quite a bit, and in the end, Scotty and Ricardo weren't really needed. So halfway up, they're like, "Are we needed for this?" And we're like, "Nah, not really." They're like, "Oh, fuck this shit then." They kind of went back to the car, and then the rest of us went up to shoot the scene and stuff. So that was, definitely cool. But yeah, there wasn't like there's no like horror stories or anything like that. It was a really chill and smooth time.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that must have been cool, like getting everybody across from basically from their homelands to come together and do the shoot. That must have been neat.
Yeah, I mean, we actually chose that time specifically because we had all got together for the UK tour. So we did 4 shows, and then the very next day we had to be back in Scotland to start filming. So it was kind of like, if we don't do it now, we're not going to get to do it. So we just made it happen.
All right, I have to ask, because I am a huge gaming nerd. The song title, like Fatal Frame, are you a gamer? Because that's an amazing game from my childhood days. And what are some of your favorite games, and what has inspired your music from gaming culture and worlds?
So yes, gamer, definitely. But I'm a console gamer. I don't do PC. So the song Fatal Frame is definitely based off of Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly, which is my favorite game of all time. I simply adore that game. The story's riveting, just everything about it. Still to this day, it holds up for me. I've been trying to write that song, like the lyrics to that song to that game for like 10 years. And finally, Mike pushed me to do it. And he wrote the amazing music behind it, every note. And it was just fucking awesome. So for me personally, that song is 10 years in the making. Aside from that, games that I like, I mean, I'm a huge survival horror fan. Everything survival horror, I'm there. I've never been one for online gaming. I'm just not interested in Call of Duty and all this kind of stuff. It's just boring to me.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely a story-oriented gamer. Final Fantasy, obviously survival horror, Death Stranding, Last of Us, all these kinds of games, with really riveting and well-told stories and single player, basically. For games I love, definitely Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Fatal Frame, Final Fantasy series, the Tales, for example, JRPG games, this Tales series, good as well.
Yeah. Did you play Final Fantasy VII yet? Remaster?
I'm already on my second run, dude.
Dude, it's so good.
Oh, it's so good, so good.
I've been resisting the second run. Are you doing hard mode right now? Is that what you're doing?
No, actually, I'm just trying to complete a couple things that I missed and all that. I'm just really getting a feel for the game. Because as well, I've never been really difficulty based, so I'm just playing it on normal again. So, of course, once I get better, I will do hard mode. But right now, it's just kind of just going over the story again and just experiencing it again.
Yeah, I was so bummed when it was over. Me and my wife played it together because we like grew up on those games, and it was like such an awesome bonding experience. I don't know. I love what games do. Like games and music are like the best thing in the world, Like,
yeah.
Talk a bit about how the pandemic has affected your live performances. Did you have any notable shows that were canceled? And are there any plans in the works to get back to playing? I think our scene in particular in New England would really love your music. When things return to normal, do you have any plans to hit the States?
So we did have a European tour last month that was canceled. We were going to tour with Finster Forest, Lucifer's Child, and Countless Skies. Unfortunately, it was canceled. Then we were supposed to go to Dark Troll actually in a couple weeks, which is a festival in Germany. And we actually also had some Spanish dates now in October, which even that's been pushed back just because we don't know where we're going to be. When it's all over, of course, we're looking to reschedule everything. We have rescheduled the festival and the Spanish dates, for example. But we're just going to tour as much as we can and play as much as we can. And when it comes to the States, well, I mean, I hope so. The States sometimes isn't easy for like the smaller bands like us, because there's a lot of cost going into it and stuff, and it has to, be worth it, And so I really don't know. I remember that actually our very first offer for a show ever was for some like indoor festival in Pennsylvania or something like that. I don't know. We hadn't even played live yet, and I just told the dude, I was like, "Do you know how much this is going to cost you?" So it's like, in the end, we didn't do it. But actually, since then, we haven't had not one offer from the States. So we really can't say.
Yeah, no, it's totally understandable. When we talk to bands who are outside of, the U.S., they just tell us it's like such an exorbitant amount of money between the visas and the travel and the equipment rental and just getting all your logistics squared away. And you really either got to be really a gambling band, or you got to know that, like, all right, we know that we're going to at least break even. So are there any shout outs that you would like to give any other bands that you might be into right now? 2020 so far has just been really amazingly rich year of music and art. Are there any other projects that you or your friends are working on that you'd like to give a shout out to? Any other bands that you're listening to?
Yeah, so actually, right now I'm listening to a lot of Catatonia. Our label mates Draconian as well are going to drop a new album this year. Listening to a lot of them. What else? Alcest released a new album recently, I think. Shout out to Zona, of course, who released their album this year.
Yeah,
on Avant-Garde Music.
Very good album.
And what else? Yeah, and then just a general shout out to like bands we've toured with, like Habakrunu, Harakiri for the Sky, Draconian. Yeah, just it's so hard within like the metal genre to like remember every band you're listening to, because we just listen to fucking hundreds of them, and it's like, it's when somebody asks you a question like this, you blank every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely I would say those at the moment off the top of my head, of course.
Right on, man. And are there any other like projects that you're involved with, or you're just strictly currently focusing on Sojourner?
No, actually, so of course we're doing the whole, promo cycle right now with Sojourner, but Scotty and Mike, also from Sojourner, of course, we decided to start a side project called Blackwater, which is going to be survival horror based, musically and lyrically as well, just taken from the games that we love the most, and it's going to be very different from Sojourner, really fucking heavy, and yeah, so more info on that soon. But
all right,
yeah, we'll definitely surface soon with something cool.
Awesome.
If you do, let us know, because I mean, I'm fascinated by the whole gaming culture and metal thing. Like bands that are inspired by like Dark Souls or the Soulsborne series. Like because there's so many of them, and like I don't know, that you could do like a whole discussion on that. So when you guys are ready to talk about it, let us know and we can set something up.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Awesome.
Definitely. I mean, it's like actually Mike, the guitarist, he's a huge Dark Souls fan. That dude like knows those games like the back of his hand. So definitely there's a lot to talk about when it comes to video games with us, for sure.
Right on. Right on. Well, thanks so much for taking the time today to talk to us, Emilio. Support Sojourner's amazing new release, Premonitions, out now on Napalm Records. They have a ton of merch available. Show them some support, and we will link everything below in the comments. Thanks for watching. Take care.